The East and the West are really fundamentally different. And one of these differences that I acknowledge nowadays with privilege, I will say, is the idea of safe spaces. There are quite a lot of safe spaces in the West. Safe spaces are often used as a selling point for students where we have a safe space for you. You can do something in peace, such as, women's only gyms are a big safe space, and other forms of safe spaces exist. And there is only one safe space that I can think of that is universal across the world, and that is the group chat. So what I mean by that is the group chat is the one place where you can be yourself in front of your friends. Now, group chats are often either confidential for work or just confidential because you've said some things that can get you 5 to life in prison, so you don't want to expose that to the world. In today's video, we're going to be discussing a group chat that got exposed to the world. Now, if it's like some teenagers in Australia, that's bad, but it's just a bunch of teenagers in Australia. What if replace those Australian teenagers with the United States government's highest ranking officials and replace the contents of the group chat from whatever was discussed, if you know, you know, to attack plans on a foreign nation? Yeah, we're gonna talk about that today, so strap in, ladies and gentlemen. We're gonna have a great time. Before I get to the meat and potatoes of this video, I'd like to make a quick announcement. I am going to be presenting at the 8th Political Perspectives Conference happening in St. John's on April 10th. The conference starts at 9 a.m. and my time slot is at 10 a.m. Newfoundland time. I will put a link in the description whenever I get a link to the Zoom. So if you want to join in and just watch the conference or watch me in the conference, you know what to do. Thank you. Alright, so before I squeeze the juice out of the main topic of this video, I just want to give some backstory because this video was actually going to come out a few weeks ago, but certain delays and academics caused me some delay. What happened was, up to that point, it was going to be an analysis on Trump's first quarter, and the first quarter is still not over technically, so I guess it's good that got delayed. But at the time, all I had was Elon Musk stuff. I had the Epstein files and the JFK files, and I also had egg prices. So I'll just go talk about those a little bit before moving on to the main topic. So with Elon Musk, I'll start with first because it's just really easy to talk about. Elon Musk is a special government employee. He's technically not a government employee, but Doge handles government money and essentially is the treasurer of the government at this point. They control what gets funded, what doesn't, yada yada. Now, I understand in certain aspects what they would like to cut and what they would try and do to make things efficient. But other times it's just blatantly stupid, where the way they word it is my issue, because the Doge account would go and say, hey, we cut $7 million from a government study on magic. Now, when you hear it that way, that sounds stupid, because government study on magic, what the hell? Are they burning money? But when you look into it, it was a project for kids. It was I believe it was either a planetarium or a zoo. I'll put up the thing now, but it was one of either a planetarium or a zoo for kids to get into STEM. It was a government grant for kids to get interested in STEM. Now, when you say it that way, it sounds terrible to cut it, but when you put it as investigating magic, suddenly, yeah, government's stupid. Of course, they shouldn't do it. So that's one. Two, another thing with Elon Musk, and this is the big one I'll get into. Elon Musk is trying to work with Pam Bondi to get anyone who damages or, insults Tesla, if you will, to be imprisoned as a domestic terrorist. Now, I will clarify, there is a bit of a difference between just spray painting F Elon on a car and making a Tesla dealership your Columbine. Like shooting up the place, bombing the place, firebombing the place. Yeah, if you do that, congratulations. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Congrats. You're now a domestic terrorist, and that's fully fair. Now, the reason I'm not, the reason I have my doubts is because Elon's whole idea with this push is anyone that attacks Teslas, it's because they don't like Elon's politics. It's not because they don't like Elon. It's just oh, they're only doing this because Elon turned to the right. And it's like, no. Elon Musk was already a very unpopular figure because Elon Musk, like 2016 to 2020, Elon Musk was quite likable. He was seen as a bit of a dork, of course, but that was his charm. His charm was he's this autistic mega dork that rocket ships, electric cars, and he's doing all of this, and now he has all of those, but it's getting more clear that like he is more of like a manager at this point than the chief of everything and all of this, because that man, if you look at how many times he tweets and stuff, and with his past of trying to cheat at games, it's like these are such petty things, and his mind is just really weird, and it's like a brain I want to pick apart because over really small things that make you seem cool, he goes ballistic on them. He went ballistic when people exposed that his PoE2 Path of Exile 2 account was being boosted and piloted by some gamers he paid. He went full like crash out, and it's really strange to me. But that's Elon Musk, and this is kind of I'm gonna circle back to where it is. Musk's tendencies to like crash out and do stuff like this is what my worry is about this whole like domestic terrorism charge, because he's the kind of person that would crash out if you just spray painted F Elon on a car, because if you do it, yes, you shouldn't do it, but spray painting something is something a 16-year-old would do as well. Are you going to send a 16-year-old to prison? No, you're going to get them to pay to remove the vandalism, like the painting, or like even if you like scratch a car, like key a car, do whatever you want to a car like that, even if you like slash the tires, stuff like this, where it's like petty vandalism, I will say. Well, it's not petty vandalism, but like it's not also destroying an entire dealership. But for stuff like this, you do it the normal way. You go, especially with Tesla Sentries, you can see who does it. You go, you confront that person, you get them to pay to fix the damage they caused. They don't pay, you got small claims court, they're gonna get a prison sentence if they not a prison sentence, sorry, but they're gonna be sentenced to like community service or to like pay you up. They will get dealt with in court, and we already have systems like this. We already have vandalism as a charge. And again, at the highest level where you're blowing up dealerships, you're going full Columbine on dealerships or exploding cars and stuff, like irreparable damage, fully agree. If you do something stupid like that, domestic terrorist. But if it's just going to be applied universal, like a blanket ban or like a blanket charge, then yeah, not fun. State-sponsored terrorism, I will say. But anyways, that's Elon mainly done. Elon is just in this weird spot with the government, with his whole like employment and his whole push to make Tesla a protected entity to the point of domestic terrorism if you mess with Teslas. But let's move on to something a bit more fun this time. I'm gonna move on to the files. So let's start with the JFK files. Nothing burgers. Yeah, the JFK files, Epstein files, all these kinds of files, they will always be nothing burgers, because they will literally, at least the Epstein files, they will destroy like the world, I will say. It is a bit of an exaggeration, yes, but the names on that list, the way they're going so protective over them, the way this has happened, it's a matter of, as I believe it was Kash Patel or someone put it. I'll get to it in the more Epstein files section, that because there are like names that are still sitting in power, or like even foreign agents, if I remember there was a mention of, basically the people are still in power and like all of this. So that means if you release them, it's a matter of national security. Fun. But with the JFK files, back to that again, yeah, most of this information we already had anyway. We did discover some new Mossad involvement, and it's just really fun to see Mossad be involved in an assassination of a candidate that was really trying to push AIPAC, which is like the American, like Israeli, like lobbyist group, I will say, to register as a foreign agent, because an Israeli organization, an Israel-tied and Israel-allied organization, is still not registered as a foreign agent like it should be in the United States. I'll let you figure out what happened to JFK and why people might have had a reason to, off him. But conspiracies aside, JFK files again were nothing burgers, and let's move on to the Epstein ones, because Epstein ones were a lot more of a bigger punch. It was a lot harder hitting, and Epstein files. Well, you expected me to say something? No, nothing burger. Epstein files were in a similar state, but a bit more advanced. First, Pam Bondi tried to get the files, and when she rang up Kash Patel to get everything, apparently there was some form of rogue agent in the FBI or some other disaster that happened, and people were burning Epstein papers, which is a totally normal thing to do, burn evidence on something that happened, years ago that can incriminate and implicate the most powerful people on Earth. Like your average Tuesday at the FBI. But then they eventually did get some papers, and Pam Bondi had these little, neat booklets and stuff. And these booklets were being handed out in phases, like a Netflix documentary. It's like, I'm going to sound really old right now, even though I'm not, but it's like going to a Blockbuster and having, a few people come out, having your new Buffy the Vampire Slayer seasons only be given to certain people, and those certain people walking out with it to, all the crowds being like, hey, I got this. This is really interesting. I'll give you a review on this later. And imagine this kind of idea, but replace Buffy the Vampire Slayer with Epstein the Kid Diddler. And the Epstein files, again, big deal. Possibly the biggest criminal case, biggest disaster of the 21st century, the biggest political, social disaster of the 21st century, and it's being hidden away. It's being treated like a nuclear bomb, and they were being released in multiple phases. So phase one was picked up by some MAGA journalists, so libs of TikTok and other creators, people that were essentially in the trenches for Trump when Biden was in power, and even before then, people that did really good work in favor of the Republicans and Trump mainly. But these people that essentially had these Trumpist views, they got the paper first. State-sponsored media this time. But they were walking out, and something I found really, really bad, which I will point out here. These people are walking out of the White House with documents that could potentially implicate people in power, people with money, billionaires, politicians, some of the most heinous crimes you can imagine, organized like a bureaucratic office. One thing about the Epstein files and the Epstein situation is, one thing is the crime happening, and the second is it being so organized and so systematic that it's chilling that it was this systemic and this organized. But you'd see libs of TikTok walk out of the White House being like, hey everyone, I got this. I'm the cool kid, you are not. But yeah. And even when those phase one files got leaked to the public, black bars, nothing burgers, same things that even the Biden admin like released. So essentially the same route of yeah, we're not gonna tackle the problem, but we do like in name and like in theatrics did it. So who knows? And I'll get to egg prices right now. Egg prices are real simple. Egg prices did go down, but it was more like a stock market style of going down. The FDA wrote a report, which I'll put up now, and the FDA essentially said that this virus that we had to, commit war crimes against chickens for, yeah, those 40 million chickens that we killed are being replaced, and their supply is also being replaced. So supply is rising to meet demand. And demand is also decreasing a little bit because people aren't panic buying as much. They learned from COVID and toilet paper. So essentially everything is going good right now, but these decreased egg prices still haven't hit grocery stores yet. It's still at like the whole, farmer to like Sobeys level or like farmer to Walmart level from what I understand, like the stock price section. And with Easter coming up in the US, Easter is going to be a really egg reliant. It's like a really egg heavy holiday. So we'll see how Easter gets treated. And I hope egg prices go down. But that is mainly it with the Trump admin so far. They still have had, at least like up to this point before the whole signal situation and the liberation tariffs. Actually, I'll get to the Liberation Day tariffs and stuff now because I will save the good things to the end. The liberation tariffs. So Trump imposed a flat 10% tariff on all countries, with some countries getting more tariffs and stuff. And when I say every single country, I mean every single country. Like, Japan wasn't safe. Taiwan, which develops a lot of chips, by the way, like your computer chips, that will, lead you into a digital new world. Yeah, everything like has been tariffed. The European Union as one big block has been tariffed, and Trump's just tariffing everything, and the markets are bleeding heavy right now. We're getting into a bear market, and so that's about it. I just don't want to talk about it this much now because it's still like the immediate impact of it. In a few months, for all we know, the markets could just flip around and record high profits, like 2008 again or something. But we're essentially at a point where, the market's bleeding, the world's bleeding. But if you can recover from this, I think Trump and America is going to have a really good base for a few years until whoever gets elected in 2028 messes it up, as American tradition is. But that's about it from all the build up to the main event. And now I'm going to talk about the call of Houthis and, the extermination of the Arab Lufis in Yemen. Alright, so we're at the big one, the signal situation. So I'll just give some backstory, and the backstory is really simple. The Suez Canal is one of the most important trade routes in the world. It links Asia to Europe, to America, and it's just really valuable in terms of business. When the Evergreen ship was stuck in the Suez and had to get poor like tractors to try and dig it out, tractor, excavator, whatever like they're called, to dig it out, it was either like every minute or like every hour was stuck there. It was costing $400 million in global business. That's how important the Suez Canal is. Now, these stats aren't like exact, but the message I'm trying to get across to you is Suez Canal is a really big deal. Now, to get to the Suez Canal, you gotta go through the Indian Ocean to the like Arabian Sea and that stuff, and you go through the Red Sea into the Suez, and from the Suez, you're through, and you're going through Mediterranean area, like you're going across like Iberia, and then you're on the Atlantic. Now, the reason the Suez is so good is because you don't have to go around South Africa and the Cape of Good Hope, especially if you're going to Europe from Asia. You just go straight through the Suez. But Yeah, so because of the Suez Canal's importance, and the only way to go there is through the Red Sea, we got Somali pirates to the west, and a new challenger has appeared. We got sand-textured pirates, Monkey D. Houthis, the Yemenis, on the east now. So these not the Yemenis, but these Yemen-based Houthis and these pirates target American ships in the Red Sea, and they're essentially a big, regional chaos maker, I will say. There is a much appropriate term to use, but it's actually inappropriate to say. But anyways, they are a disturber in the region. Now, America and their historical peace towards the Middle East would probably want to do something about it. Now, when America sets its mind on invasions or military attacks, they will do it no matter what. And to better understand what they were doing, Mike Waltz, who is the National Security Advisor, created a small group called Houthi PC Small Group. This group's aim was to discuss how to deal with the Houthis, war plans, attack plans, whatever, right? Now, in this group chat, everyone in there is essentially the most important people in the United States government, politician-wise. They were in there. They had knowledge of this, and they were actively discussing what to do against the Houthis. Now, with all of this being said, the reason we know about this and the reason we can now discover Pete Hegseth's plan to attack and bomb the Houthis down to the minute of his operations is because this group chat got leaked. Now, this was leaked in the stupidest way possible. Mike Waltz added a journalist to this group chat, and this journalist looked at everything and was like, yo, what is this? At first he thought it was fake, and then when he realized that what Hegseth is saying is lining up with the real world, with the Houthi situation in Yemen, he's like, oh god, this is real. Now, imagine instead of a journalist that was waiting to see if this is real or not, this was some Chinese spy or some Russian spy. This information, the sensitive information that could impact the conflict, that could impact, I say conflict, but that could impact the operation. It could have been sold to the highest bidder from Moscow to Beijing and been used to warn against the Houthis. Actual counterintelligence, actual espionage weapon, actual espionage fodder was in this group chat. But no, thankfully the journalist basically realized that this is real and decided to report it on The Atlantic. That entire article has its own thing now. And the main issue that I have with this whole situation, which is going to be hopefully echoed by a lot of people, is it's not the fact that they attacked Yemen or the Houthis or the way they did. That's not the problem. The problem is they were discussing these over an unsecured messaging platform called Signal, where it could have been leaked to the wrong people. It could have gone to the wrong hands. Now, when I say this, I'm essentially trying to give you a description of, imagine being a gay man, but you're still closeted, and to find other gay men, you go on Grindr. And not only do you go on Grindr, you don't go as some anonymous, you don't go as a no-face or someone. You go as your face, your name, your interests, with a verification tick next to your name. The problem isn't the fact that you're men or you're like this, you're like that. The problem isn't that. It's the fact that if you're trying to be down low about it, if you're trying to hide it, you're doing a terrible job. And you can lead yourself to positions where someone who doesn't like you or someone who has something against you could find your account, send you screenshots being like, yo, I think you're gonna pay me a few $1,000s before I leak this to the world, like, haha, like, blackmail. This is like textbook blackmail of confidential information on a government level, on a military level. It's a security disaster. Not Pete Hegseth, Mike Waltz, who created this group and added the journalist, is the national security advisor for the United States. So, gives you full confidence if you're an American, eh? But again, the main issue with this case is the fact that these chats were had over Signal, and it was so weak, and it was so pathetically weak, that this is how these got leaked. It wasn't even the fact that, the Signal chat was leaked. It was the fact that a journalist was invited by the National Security Advisor, someone who needs to be at their A game about this, and they messed up terribly. Now, with all this that happened, every single person in the group chat essentially had to go in front of the Senate. They had long arguments, long talks. This was essentially discussed. At first, it was, these chats aren't legit. Then it was, yeah, they're legit, but, like, they're not discussing, like, attack plans or, like, war plans. Then once we saw the Pete Hegseth speedrun marathon of times and, like, locations and attack methods, then it was, well, the journalist shouldn't have been there. And it's like, it's literal cope. You're literally trying to cope at something that happened. And what really annoyed me was Tulsi Gabbard gave a statement to the Senate. And when Gabbard was asked, like, 2 weeks before, like, I guess, like, her initial statement was, like, I'll say 2 weeks ago. And then she gave a statement once these leaks were confirmed to be legit and all of it, because Tulsi Gabbard was in that chat. She was like, the Senate went to her and was like, yo, you told us that, like, you had no knowledge of anything and stuff, but, like, you're in this group chat, and in this group chat they discuss, like, weapon systems, they discuss all of this. And Tulsi Gabbard essentially pled the fifth in the most political way possible by saying, I don't recall. So Tulsi Gabbard has either developed total amnesia within 15 days, which makes her unfit for her position, or she's trying to cover for the absolute governmental failure that just took place. It's going to be a stain on the Republican Party. It's going to be a stain on Trump admin. And it's essentially also now another way of coping by people is like, but Hillary's emails. Hillary was investigated by 6 government agencies because of the email situation. And now with the Signal situation, the Trump admin is low-key getting away with it, which is really annoying. But that's essentially it for the Signal situation, because, again, the problem, then this is the big takeaway I want to give you from my perspective. The takeaway isn't the fact that America was attacking Yemen or, like, had these plans. That's not the problem. The problem is you don't share these plans over an unsecure app like Signal. Or do you not add journalists to your group chat where you're discussing these plans? It shows incompetence. It shows an inability to use technology. It shows lack of, I guess, character, I will say, for lack of a better term. Like, this lack of intelligence, again, like, of the national security advisor, where they mistakenly added a journalist to this group chat. It's a disaster. It's one of the biggest, United States intelligence disasters of all time, I would say, because of how blatantly stupid it is. But again, that's about it for the Signal, and I will have a small section now, starting now, where I will talk about how we got here and, like, my evaluation of the United States elections and how we got Trump in power in the first place. So stay tuned for that. Now I'll discuss some more general American politics. So I'll just give you 2024, and I'll give you reasons as to why 2024 happened the way it did, and try and draw historical parallel to the current situation the Democrats find themselves in. So 2024, we're having an election. Joe Biden, who somehow survived a 4-year term, which is more difficult than climbing Mount Everest for him at this point. Like, for a normal person to climb Mount Everest, the same as Joe Biden serving a 4-year term. But he done it, which is really good. And he's planning on running again for 2024. Bit worrying, especially with his old age and his smooth pea mushy brain, I will say. And yeah, so Biden, not unexpectedly, but like unsurprisingly, drops out of the race, and the Democrats have like 100 and some change days to find someone that will run for the party. Now, the Democratic Party did this, like the DNC, our left, our we're not Trump party. They decided to, instead of having a primary, they decided to let Kamala Harris run. They pushed Harris to run for presidency. Now, Harris isn't a popular or likable candidate, and it's not because she's a black woman. It's because her policy is really like zigzaggy. Her policy is all over the place. She can never settle down on like one thing to go all in on. Her policy in general like that is weak. Before she became VP, she dropped out of the presidential race in 2020, like 2019, before Iowa. Her campaign was miserable as president, and her highlight in her presidential campaign was looking at Joe Biden and saying, Joe, you were voting like for segregation in like the 1970s, about like black kids being able to use a bus. Like, she went and attacked Joe Biden's character on this topic, and it really shocked, like, it came out of the left field, no pun intended, to Joe Biden and stuff. But then Biden committed to picking a woman for VP, and like he picked Kamala, and there was a bit of a fear at that point where it's like, because of Kamala's really big expression of her dislike towards Joe Biden in 2019, it's like, yeah, first week of election, Joe, let's go on an open top car ride into Dallas, Texas. But other than that, Kamala Harris is just unlikable, and one of the other traits that make her unlikable, other than policy and like how she approached 2020 elections and all of this, is her career before politics and before the Senate. Kamala Harris is a prosecutor in the state of California. And for those of you that are interested, Kamala Harris graduated law school in 1989. And just like, she's getting into her career in the 90s. In the 90s, in California, Rodney King happened. Rodney King, for those that don't know, essentially sparked BLM riots in the 90s, where he was dragged out of his car and beaten up for driving while black. And it really pissed people off when 3 out of the 4 police officers that were beating him up got like acquitted, and like their charges, like either got like an innocent, or like the case was dropped against them. But like, the police didn't see punishment for beating up a black man in California. So 2 plus 2 equals riots in the 90s. Kamala Harris is a prosecutor. Kamala Harris has sent people to prison, has sent black men and women and even children to prison. Kamala Harris is someone who a lot of people see as part of a problem, the system as a part of the problem. And Kamala Harris is a candidate of the system. And this is going to be like the majority of my talk from now on. But Kamala Harris is one of the most establishment ways you can get, where policy don't like matter to Kamala. Like, of course it does, but like it's going to be the same as Obama, when Obama was campaigning and like has had this whole hope campaign and stuff. If you put like a list of Obama's policy and the list of George Bush's policy, like, they were still bombing kids in Syria. Like, it doesn't matter who's bombing them, because Obama became an establishment candidate. Obama basically became the very thing he was rallying people against. Because remember, Obama was elected in 2008 after Wall Street, after years of the GOP, these neoconservatives that were like establishment, and like it didn't really matter who it was. It could be anyone in the suit. They just have to like LARP policy. Billions and trillions wasted on useless wars that was destroying American well-being and the world as a whole. And the Wall Street crash that happened in 2008, Obama was a beacon of hope. Obama's famous hope poster was his like campaign's ultimate magnum opus. Obama was about change. Obama was the wrecking ball that was about to destroy the GOP dominated like political atmospheres from like 2000, like since the Bush era and stuff, like since the Bushes over the world. And it's like, you have this kind of candidate, you have this story as the Democratic Party, you have this anti-establishment, you're gonna be this change that America needs, especially after COVID, especially after the many disasters Americans went through. You should not use your platform to say, yo, we're not Trump, vote us. You need to actually campaign for votes, which the Democratic Party really failed to do. They essentially, on the 11th hour, reached that man and treated Tim Walz as a DEI white guy, being like, hey man, I play football, I drink beer, we have some form of space for you on the left. And when you're trying to get Tim Walz as the image for the left, and you put Walz in the position of, cheerleader, people aren't really going to like that. And people don't like being, like, talked down to and being condescended, which is something the left does a lot, where it's like, the median voter doesn't care if it's, like, team red or team blue. They just want someone who talks to them, who is real. And the left has been losing that ground for like years and years because they're appealing to identity politics, which again, not a bad thing, but if you're going that direction, you gotta understand its consequences. And the left has just not been doing that. And another thing the left is really going against is populism. Now, populism and nationalism do have differences, but just to give you an idea, Obama being really anti-establishment is what got Obama into office. Obama had an entire mess created by the GOP and like the Bush government that he was going to wrecking ball and clear up. Obama in 2008 is closer to what Donald Trump is in 2024 than Kamala Harris. And Obama's transformation from this beacon of hope into essentially, I guess, selling out, for lack of a better term. And in big 2024, Obama's lecturing black men on why they should vote for Kamala. It comes off as really condescending. And this condescending look down and this whole like populism, like the failure to understand populism. Yes, like the left, you are currently the establishment and it sucks to like go against it. But like if your entire party is going to essentially go, well, America's already great like Hillary Clinton was doing in 2016, you're not going to get votes. And the left need their own like Donald Trump, not like because of dumb policy or something, because you need someone that appeals to people's want of like populism, someone that understands that the system is messed up, someone that understands what the American people want and need. In the left, in 2016, if y'all let Bernie run, it would have been much closer than Hillary, because Hillary is an establishment candidate. Hillary is a Clinton. The Clintons have really colorful history within the United States political system. So you let Bernie Sanders run in 2016, you'd be really good. But, of course, Bernie Sanders' campaign had to be nuked by the left because he's hanging out with too many no-no people. He's doing this, he's doing that. And when you're that kind of image, when you create that kind of image as the left, where when Kamala Harris was gonna go on Joe Rogan, she didn't because she was fearing, backlash from the progressive left. The left, by the way, a lot of the some of the blame was also put on like Joe Rogan and stuff, being like the left need their own like influencer figures and stuff. No, the left has media. The left has Hollywood. The left has the media tools. The left just decides to not associate with others because they don't want to upset progressives. And when you go that direction, when you like bat that way, you're going to isolate your not fan base, or you're going to isolate your voter base. And when you isolate your voter base, you can't just win them back by saying, yep, we're team blue, you vote blue again. You actually have to earn it. And the fact that you don't try and you become condescending to people is really what annoys them. So for 2028, here are my two like predictions, I guess. 2028, I am definitely saying Vance is probably going to run for like the Republican, like Vance is probably going to be the Republican nominee. Vance, because of how much he was involved in like the signal situation and how he's like actively involved in the country as a VP, he's essentially going to be like a Trump vessel, I think. And he is both like establishment enough where like the old head neocon Republicans would be okay with him, but he's also like new gen anti-establishment, like carrying on Trump's legacy kind of candidate. So JD Vance is, I think, a good lock for 2028 for the Republicans. For the Democrats, on the other hand, Walz has good policy. His campaign essentially got derailed by Kamala's terrible use of Walz as like DEI hire, like a DEI white guy. But Walz is a good shout. If you really want a good populist candidate, get like a Bernie regen. And the only like Bernie kind of regen I can think of, someone who is actively working with their community and is, critical of the system. AOC. And if the way I honestly think, AOC has better odds compared to Clinton and Kamala Harris on becoming the first female president of the US, because people don't care if your president is male or female. People just want a person. They want someone real. And Hillary Clinton isn't a real person. Kamala Harris isn't a real person. I'll say it in a joking tone. But so just quick takeaways are essentially America is really populist. America wants someone that's against the system, that challenges, the terrible way of life they've been forced to live since 2008 and like more like since 2001 with all like the costly wars that the GOP led. But that's about it. Populist candidates needed for 2028 from both parties. The left has, Walz. The left can get AOC. The left really needs to shed its like appealing to progressives exclusively image in favor of getting more like votes. And the right, you need like a Trump vessel. You need someone that can draw in like a crowd. And I think JD Vance is that guy, honestly. So until 2028 and the elections, I will see you about America later.